I kind of wanted to say, hey, 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 or something really goofy, but ooh. I kind Okay, let's mute the feedback. I don't need to hear myself double time. Hey, hi. I guess from the titles you can see it's good to be back. Wow. So it's been quite the past. Well, I guess now it's really been 2 weeks. I really didn't mean to go to Song Without Publishing. I actually started recording something on vacation, but the first place we were in was a little bit too like the internet was really funky. Like it feels like it takes everything like a day or so to kind of like adjust to the you know different 4G whatever. So I remember I was walking around, the grounds are really cool. I was like really pumped, and then it just kept the live kept like flickering in and out on me, and I was like, oh okay, I guess I'll have to do this later. But man, you get into the trip, and especially when you're like the poor man's Rick Steves, like I was last week, you don't really. There's not really enough like on moments. Like I brought 3 books with me. I think I mentioned previously before I left that I wanted to do a video on a chapter of Tool by Peter Sotos. So I read that. I think I ended up reading that on the plane back. I took Toni Morrison's Playing in the Dark. It's like this mini kind of literary uh, treatise about race and identity in classic American literature. And so I kind of thumbed through that. And it's weird. Sometimes you think you have an idea for a video or something you want to cover and it sounds so good. And then you go like back to the source material. Then you're like, I'm not really too keen on doing that like I thought I was. But we'll see. And then on top of that, what was the last book? Oh, I just did, I finally got I finally got around to getting and have received my copy of Answer Me. And I was going to take it, but it's all 4 original volumes bound into one, production. So I was kind of like, I think I'll wait on that one because I would dug in and maybe gotten through like maybe 10 pages. And I was like, oh, let's just wait till we get back and I'll start that in earnest. Um, and the same with The Talkative Corpse by Ann Sturzinger. So that's definitely on deck now that I'm back. So just in case you can hear like some water rushing in the background, laundry, hey. So first, my apologies for last night. So I get home and it's weird. I feel like during the day I'm like totally fine. But like at night, since I've been back, like I just get up, like it happened again tonight. I got home, did a little running around, then I look up, it was like 7. I'm like, I'm just gonna lay down for a second. And then I looked up, it was 11, it was like 10:58, like a few minutes ago. Well, as some of you know, depending on what time zone you're in. And I was like, oh man, I can't do this 2 nights in a row. Cause like I literally had it all set up and then it was like 11 and I was just exhausted. So yeah, so I don't even know where to start. A post-vacation recap. Okay. So we'll start there. Well, actually, no, it's maybe more pertinent quickly that I start with today. So I mentioned that previously that I was going to be out of the country, which it was. So my very good friend from high school got married she got just married just right outside of London last Saturday. And so I was there. My mother went on this trip with me too, which, I guess I'll come back around to that. Excuse me. So, also my other very, very good friend today, I get this text message like around like 1. I was out taking a break at work and I started going through my phone and I was like, just gonna go on Twitter, been kind of catching myself up on all the news of the day. And I was like, wow, who is this person texting me? I was like, whose baby is this? Like I thought I was on the wrong like timeline or somebody got my number incorrectly. And I started reading, I'm like, oh my God, this baby was scheduled to be delivered by C-section in July. But all of a sudden he's here and it's really cool. So it's been kind of like staying abreast of all the news. So it's been a really interesting past week and with the two of them, and then today, like, oh, new baby that didn't expect to get to see or meet until next month. So just been a real swirling spin cycle of everything. So that definitely kind of plays into today as well. So back to the trip. So the first day we started off in Rusper, which is a part of Horsham, which is like a greater part of like, well, it's a little bit of a split off from Crawley, which is where Gatwick Airport is located. And it's a very small, very intimate, really cute town. We stayed at a manor that night. I found this really cool deal online, and uh, just real mellow, with your own cottage. It was pretty awesome. I just thought it was going to just be like a normal, like kind of more hotel-y experience. They just had a room, but they actually have cottages. It was pretty nice. Um, let's see. Maybe while I do this, I can look at some photos and not share them with you. Like I don't know how. I mean, it's not that I don't know how. I know it's like really easy. I would have to upload them. So if you give me a little time, that might be something that I end up doing. It's just putting up some pictures themselves from the trip. So man, really, that was a really cool cemetery. Really cool little cemetery just down the road that I walked to. Picture of a phone booth. The classic, like, red phone booth that you see in the UK. Oh, so I had like, so the first night was there, and then second night we went to Hastings. Now I know I mentioned in passing, that I've always kind of, been interested. I mean, I came across Aleister Crowley more so originally due to his occult activities and behaviors, but it still is true today. Carly is a social critic, and just a lot of his other observations about life and everything are just as if not more important to me. And considering where we were, when I looked at a map, I realized that Hastings wasn't that far away, and it would be pretty accessible by train, which it was. So the second night, we went to Hastings. Real great little cute little seaside town. Um, a lot of like big rolling hills. Let's see. Got to basically, so I told you last month I've been to Punta Cana, which is on a certain part of the Atlantic Ocean. And looking at a couple pictures that I took, was able to just basically walk down the road and just basically be there. Beautiful cliffs, real big rushing water and all that fun stuff. So both nights ended up with some really great salmon. I mean, beetroot cured salmon is quite something. So the first night it was just like an appetizer, and I saw it in Hastings. So we had it in Rusper, then I saw it in Hastings on the menu. Had really great fish and chips, um, fried sprats, some fried calamari, a little bit of mackerel, all those beautiful delicacies of the sea. So then the next 2 nights were spent actually in London, and I really liked it. It kind of made me think more of I mean, London is as big and bustly as New York. Now so the first 2 nights we were kind of in our own private quarters, but we stayed in a hostel the London night, so it was like us in some bunk beds with like, most of it just kind of traveling through girls. It's weird. I mean, I guess some people do, depending on how long you stay, but most people just are there to sleep. You don't really talk to folks. So my mother did tell me when I was in the shower that one of the girls that she spoke to said she was from Minnesota. And I was like, oh, sweet. What do we do there? So at least if anyone is familiar with London and have been there, we were right near the Gloucester Road. I feel like I'm still saying it wrong. Glou, Glous, yeah, it's Gloucester. Yeah, that's got to be it. Has to be totally. So that was like the closest tube stop for us. So we stayed there. I found this other cool deal for like you get to enjoy the spa for the whole day that you're there, and it comes to afternoon tea. We did that. I meant to do more of the museum circuit, but like I think between the leaving and getting there, I was pretty much just kind of like a little bit whooped by the time we even got to day 3, which was the first day in London. So I only went to the Museum of London. I like the description a lot. It kind of reminded me of museums back home. It gives you that kind of prehistorical era of a city, and they show you like, the Clovis, arrows all the way through like World War II. You get the whole full picture of a city and a place. And it was cool. Um, so then what do we do? We had dinner at the Amber Hotel, which is right at the Charing Cross tube stop. Another really great meal. I'm looking at a picture of myself. I didn't get that many pictures of myself. And I did something really special. I got this Coach bag. It's a real Coach bag, probably from the 80s or the 90s. And I got this from a woman for helping her out with some things for her house. So I finally broke that out for the first time on this trip, which is pretty awesome. It's not Coach bags. I mean, it's like a really just a real simple brown. Anyway, detail in the Coach purse. So then Friday, like another photo from the Paddington Underground Station, we headed out to Hungerford, which is where the wedding itself was. This little barn. Just a really great time. A lot of friends from high school came. A lot of mostly people live in other places here too, but it was it was a very like half UK, half US wedding. A lot of us, representing for 414 Cheesehead Power. It was great. I was worried, oh my God, we get so loud when we get together, all of us. And anyway, we had a good time. It was fun. The wedding was really cute and really beautiful, like the theme and everything. Oh, so awesome. Um, they did brisket and salmon. There's this really cool vegan tart in the menu. And I'm looking at the pictures. Oh my gosh. So there's like kind of this horror story. You have to be really careful with uh like calves there. Oh, the cutest story. Okay, so you and my mom, this is day 4. That would be a Friday would have been day 4, right? No. Yep, yep, yep. So it's crazy. So I'm on the train. We're on the train from Paddington Station, just in London, out there. And I get this text message from my buddy who always had the baby. She's like, "You hear Anthony Bourdain died?" I'm like, "What? No way!" Because literally, we were in Hastings when I heard about Kate Spade. And I just had happened to get online. I was just, catching up on the news. So then she sends me that, and I was already half nodding in and out. So we get to Hungerford, and we get off the train, and we walk into a little town center, real cute, real adorable, just real intimate. I think this town maybe of 15,000 people. So that's one thing I'll say. I'm glad I planned the trip this way. So we ended up with like a small town, a smaller city, 2 days in a big city, and then like a day, well, 2 days for the wedding in another smaller town. Obviously, I didn't plan that part. But this woman walks, this older white woman. My mom said, you went to the bathroom. And then she walked by like twice. And so my mom's sitting with the bags and everything. It's like on this little bench in front of this restaurant. And then and I happened to come back and she's like, "Do you guys want to come to my house?" And we're like, at first I'm like, not for me, especially by myself. Like, I'm kind of, I don't want to say completely fearless. We're a pretty fearless traveler. And I wasn't sure our mom would be digging that. But then it's like, oh, yeah, sure. So we walk with all of our stuff, like maybe like a good 2, maybe 3 American city blocks away. And so this great little house at the top of a hill. And we sat on our patio and chit-chatted and had some juice and some seltzer water, and just talked and everything. And we went back down to the town center, got a cab. It was just like, so like, I don't know. I had that whole Blanche Kindness of Strangers thing in my head the whole time after that. Yeah, so then the wedding, still kind of a nightmare with the cab. We went out for dinner with everyone the night before the wedding, and then we couldn't get back. And the hairdressers were staying in the same place we were. Just 15 minutes away, everyone else ended up in like the little in the town like manor hotels. We ended up with this like Days Inn. It was only 10, 15 minutes tops away, but that's just enough for the insanity of not being able to get back. So we get back finally, go back into the wedding. It was a great experience. It was beautiful. It was so fun. They both big music fans. So they kind of wove that in. Like they came into dinner at it's like AC/DC. Uh, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a really great time. But you don't really, you get to see people it's their wedding day, so you don't get to catch up as much because they're just kind of running around and So I don't know. I think I still have 25 pounds in my purse. Oh, that conversion rate, let me tell you, man. I give this woman $100 to change me out, and she gives me back 64.93 in pounds. And I was like, oh, this is awful. I want to like cry. But yeah, so I'll say that for the next trip back. So then we leave. We left Sunday, which kind of sucks because I didn't know that the people were going to like come to the wedding and then stay like until like Monday, Tuesday to do stuff. Because then I would have just had maybe we wouldn't have come Monday the prior week. We would have come maybe Wednesday, or maybe we just would have gone straight. Well, maybe we would have done Hastings, then done the wedding, and then done London with the group proper because they did like the London Eye and the river and stuff. But we did the river too, which is fun. The Thames is gorgeous and it was pretty fun riding up and down there. Got a great picture of Mom in front of Big Ben. Um, so I bet there'll be something to talk about again to revisit. But that's literally been the past week for me. So we left Monday. Where's the calendar? We left Monday. Well, technically, I drove down from Minnesota Saturday. So basically, Sunday, June 3rd, we left that night out of O'Hare. We got back Sunday night around 7. It took 2 hours to get off the plane, go through customs, and get out of O'Hare. Then drive into the city because I left my car with someone in town. Speaking of the car, so then that happened today. It was doing this weird thing when I turned right, this like clicking noise. See, 3 people listening now, and I bet like all of you are mechanics. Please explain this to me. No, you don't have to. It was just doing this clicking and it stopped. And I got the car back. Obviously, I've had it for the past 2 days. And then today, I got up, went to work out, came back, and it's like now it's doing it just constantly. It's just like clicking, turning, shaking me by. It's not even shaking, but the sound that's happening underneath the front sounds like it. So then that started today in earnest. It's not even like the car itself. It's like the knowing you have to get it someplace and like someone has to look at it and then how are you going to get to and fro. There's this really great mechanic place. Just it's like 2 little towns. Well, not towns over. It's just across St. Paul, and they're really good, but it takes them a while. And I have to call in the morning. So then that started today too. How did I get on that? Well, I guess that should have been the beginning part of this stream when I talked about all the recent happenings, but that's one of the other ones. So yeah, like I said, I think that pretty much says it all. I'm gonna try. Well, okay. So let me. Well, do I need to screen share this? I probably should. So now, what's next on the channel? I guess this all ties in. So the last time I remember seeing all of you lovely people was the Sunday that I was on Luke Ford with Hotep Jesus. That was literally now. I wanted to strike while the iron was hot, and I felt like if I would have said, "Oh, I'm going out of town. Let me just put this off for a week," and whatever, it might not have happened, or I wouldn't have been there when it did happen. So literally, we were sitting around with our bags in my buddy's apartment in Chicago. When I did that, and I literally with the timing between all 3 of us, it was literally like about 2 hours where I need to be at the airport. And so that whole experience happened. I may, I may end up doing that. I know it's like a week later, but I actually finally got to I finally re-listened to the whole thing. Like what? Just a few days ago, actually. When I was driving back to Minnesota, I started listening to it in the car. So let's see where is it? Oh, so I remember when I saw this on uh I remember when I saw this on Twitter because I guess Brundlefly retweeted it. Look how many people are live streaming. It's just okay. That's another thing about the future of the channel. While I'm like I guess I'll just screen share it real quickly. I guess I can put the link below too. There's so many people who stream, and I think what I'm just gonna end up probably doing. Oh, is that it? Yeah. Okay. Is having to find like a time. Like, I like the Nick Fuentes model where he just like minus being away, he's like just consistently like Yep, I'm there. Okay, so yeah, and then so um Metaphysically Lux like made this. His editing skills are really awesome because he has a whole slew of videos. So you should definitely check out his channel. He's been doing some really great clips and grabs. Like, sure, who's it? Kronos, who's do all the ones for like JF and Worski. And so you can always go back and listen to the full stream, but it's nice to have that someone's out there kind of like doing all the listening for you too, in addition, and clipping like some of the best parts and what have you. Um, so yeah, okay. So I guess I'm reflecting this real quick. So it's funny, like I remember I was standing outside of like the hostel, and like in the morning, like probably like Wednesday or no, it's like Thursday morning, and I look at my feed and like in my mentions, and Brundle Five retweeted this. I love the title, by the way. I was like, oh my god, no way! And it's so weird. Like, I mean, it's like you're trying to like, you have to roll with these things. And I feel like I did okay. If I obviously had, my mind, my mentally, I was, in the conversation and here for it. But obviously, as I said numerous times, I had something very important to do, which is shepherd us to the airport. And it's crazy. We ended up there so early, but you don't know these things, and obviously, it's not anything to play around with. So, so yeah, so yeah, our black girl, Chuck Spear through Hotel Park. Oh my god! So like, I ran into him in like Brundle Fly stream with Richard Spencer last night. I was like, yeah, did you see the video? I was like, yes, thank you. That was so cool. So seriously, it was. And actually, I was just watching a few that he just did. When was it Red Elephant and Do It? It was a good. I can't remember the title. It's probably here in the mentioned somewhere. But anyway, yeah, very happy to you, my man. This was really fun, and really glad that you did that. That was cool. Let's see. Oh, so that's me again. Let me come out of share for just a minute, because in case there's something else I'm thinking of, I can just go pull it up. So what was I saying? So things that I missed and I hadn't talked about previously. Yep. So that was one. Now, more things directionally going forward in the channel. One thing, okay, so two things. Well, actually, there's a little few more too. The first one, I just have this note because I know I said this previously, and I don't know how this is going to play out. If anyone's listening and they may be interested or could pass this around if they know someone who is, I've been thinking about Twin Peaks for a while, and what I've wanted to do for some time is to do a video or do like a series, like just kind of, I don't know, what would you call it? I guess if I want to say, do I want to tie it into a, like, you know, Argent Templar, he's got some cool videos on his channel, like, watching certain movies or shows through an alt-right or dissident right lens. And I was like, well, Twin Peaks would definitely be, par for the course. I mean, it's a very interesting show, the history around it. Um, just even like, so like, for instance, there's a big part of me that's would love to just do something, but more like one like, paper for sure. Like, for instance, as I've said more often than not, I'm a Midwesterner. And there's especially like even David Lynch and how he kind of approaches this region and his work interests me and is interesting. And there's that. I mean, there's so many different angles to approach, but I guess in short, what I'm saying is it'd be really cool to either solo or maybe is there anyone out here in this sector, that is into the show Twin Peaks or has watched it or is familiar with it, that would maybe want to do a chat together, put together some cool content and just kind of discuss. Something be like super, super long, to be like super punchy, like, I don't know what it could be, but basically, I guess my brief history is I was, it's one of those shows I feel like a lot of people, especially the past decade, maybe were told for years and years and years, you need to go watch Twin Peaks. You need to watch Twin Peaks. You need to watch Twin Peaks. Excuse me. Oh, and so that's another interesting point. So I mentioned the Midwestern point with David Lynch. I'm a big Interpol fan. And Interpol, actually, here, I guess I can just so you can have it as a reference, I'll just pull this up so you can see. talking about. So they're familiar with each other's work, and so I'll just share it in the background. You can kind of just look at it while I talk. So David Lynch did a video, like an animated feature for one of Interpol's songs, Lights. This is from the fourth album, the self-titled album, Interpol. And so that kind of made me cross over into the fact that I'm really a big fan. So it's weird. That was for forever. I knew, like, okay, I have to finally check out Lynch because, you know, I'm a big Interpol fan. And I know there's some, like, definitely admiration on their side for his work and the work that he's done over the years. So yes, this is like an animated video that he made for Lights. I'm not gonna pull it up. And for this video, I may go back and add some more tags and stuff. This is mostly just me to check in and weave around. So gosh, now it's been like 20 minutes of me and everything. And I haven't said thank you guys so much. Okay, so that's the big tail. Second thing after the whole Luke Ford thing, I was watching the subscription button change, and I still have a few comments from before that I haven't gotten to. Maybe what I'll even do is do like one of those comment videos again. Thank you so much for subscribing. I've noticed the count go up, and more people, you know, it came over, and you know, I guess, you know, obviously this kind of is what Dennis Dale called the Lucosphere. It's good to see, you know, people making content, sharing content, talking with each other, all that stuff. So yeah, just basically thank you to you all, and you know, it was such an opportune time, and again, in the sense that, you know, I literally didn't, because, you know, normally I could just like really sit there and engage. You know, I was on my way out of the country for like a week, and so I apologize for not making anything sooner, but, you know, I mean, I probably don't have to over explain this point. Like even up and through tonight, where, you know, I'm still, I mean, I'm not like lagged during the day. I'm like totally fine. But like I'm having this impulse at night. Like by 7 or 8, I've been like really tired. So that old, like, you know, let me get on here like at 11, 12 o'clock. And then getting home at like 6 and saying the notification. And then it's like actually 11. And I'm like, oh my God, or I'm asleep. So yeah, just thank you to you all for subscribing and checking me out. So I guess I also had a couple just goals or things I want to do differently. Well, one thing is I want more consistency, because I feel like what I'm noticing is, especially being back and trying to catch up on everyone's stuff, and, you know, just kind of jumping into different like streams and things, I'm noticing that there's so many people going live and making things mostly in the evening. And I'm kind of wondering, well, maybe what I should do is just pick a time, but I don't think I don't want to over live it out. So like, again, like I originally had thought a month or two ago into this channel that what I want to do is maybe save the lives for the weekend, like, or maybe once during the week, midway through, and then maybe one on the weekend. And then I'm just going to, what I would like to consistently do from here on out is make a video a day. Like, for instance, all the Trump North Korea stuff. I found really 2 cool articles on Twitter. And that's what I'm saying is, because I've been meaning to go back and grab them. Like, one was retweeted by Arctos Media, and then the other one, I want to say it came from Trad News Blogspot. They were just both really interesting takes on the on the happenings with that, and I should cover that. So yeah, more just kind of like consistent day to day, like what's in the news type things would be really beneficial. And if I can just start there for the rest of June, just kind of make up for time. Again, I really wanted to do something live, and it was just like not happening. Especially on the mobile phone, just wasn't happening. And I think especially if I had also been traveling by myself, you know, maybe at night I would have like put on the like recording and just started chit chatting with y'all about some stuff. So you guys still watching this? It's such an interesting little animation. So like, I guess from there, let me just rope back to the Twin Peaks question. It'd be great to like talk about the entire series, is mostly probably familiar. The first two seasons air back in like the early 90s on ABC. Season 3 was just made 25 years approximately later, and it's on Showtime. And so which I've watched. So basically, my experience. So because of Interpol, because of like my buddy's husband that had the baby, he was like, "You gotta watch Twin Peaks. You gotta watch. You gotta watch it finally." And they have Netflix. And I remember, like, I think I watched the first two seasons in like a week, just like back to back. And once you start, it's like, whoa. Because one thing I thought would be cool, just offhand, like it'd be cool someone who hasn't watched it but's always been interested would kind of like talk about it and join in. And also I've noticed too, even I mean, it's different for me as someone that's very new to like the kind of community and fandom around that's the end. It's a really great song. Like the original video for Lights is, I mean, Interpol's worked with Charlie White as a director for a lot of concepts, and man, I love the David Lynch like take on it with his animated feature, but the original video for Lights is something else too. Uh, Sorry, let myself on a tangent. Oh, so the season 3 comes about, and you have this whole let's see, you can come out of share for a second. I'm gonna start navigating that a little bit easier too, just so I'm not oh, does it just take you out of zone? No, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. Okay. You still can hear me talking to myself, trying to like figure out what happened. Let's stop doing that. Yes, it did. Okay. So yeah, I just keep going back. Probably would be kind of cool to discuss the series through through this and the right lens. Just maybe have kind of more have some different cultural conversations about the series itself in a number of aspects. Season 3, and I think Kyle MacLachlan was robbed. I mean, he plays like 3 different people in season 3, and you kind of the return is just really cool. But it's a lot to be said too about a television show. Well, because there's all these weird things that end up happening in real life. So this whole like I'll see you again in 25 years. Anybody's familiar with the show, how that reference plays out from the end of season 2, because of all the actual real life things that were happening with David Lynch and Mark Frost and actually producing the show for ABC. Then for it to come back in this different medium in this different time, because as you can easily see if you just look up the show, it was a big game changer for television at its time in the 90s. And so it's weird that it comes back in 25 years and it's in a different medium. Like someone says, a couple people say you can't not see the influence of Twin Peaks. Like no one ever, in a lot of, and once you see it, you kind of, especially someone, because depending how old some of you guys were, I was like in kindergarten when this show came out, and so so then you watch it so many years later, and people keep saying, a lot of the dramas that you see today had this influence from this show. You can't not see it once you watch Twin Peaks, and so then to come back in a whole new kind of, really literally a new timeline. Okay, I'm not gonna like go off too much about that. So even as I talk about the show, there's like 4 or 5 different avenues to cover. So basically what I'm saying is anyone listening that may be interested, I could maybe just do a separate little video. I'll maybe write down like 10 rough things I would like talk about or want to explore. That might be fun and be a great way to maybe team up with some folks and, have something to talk about. So the next thing that I have written here is Negroes in Negroland. Well, this is worth a share because now you can find the text. Let me see. This is over here. Oh, it is great. You can find the full text online. I think it's on archive. It's been archived somewhere. Let me see. Where is his? Okay. So I'm just gonna open it up and share it just so you can see what I'm referring to. See, I guess I want to go back and link these things in here. Let me just take a real quick second to make a note when I need to go back and add to this video. You know, it's like Negroes in Negroland also looks like 9-inch nails. Yeah. I just thought that as I was writing it out. Yep, that's like real. That's a real groundbreaking. I recognize matching letters. Wow, that's special. That's special. Okay, so yeah, this is the full 4 hours and 44 minutes, and I think this is actually, yeah, I'm reading the description. I think this is Sven Longshanks from like Daily Stormer because I think oh, right. So I think that this is like probably from way back when on Daily Stormer where, and then I imagine they still have it. So they were reading like books and doing kind of audio things. So it's all 11 parts. I guess I have to go back and square it with the archive to see if this is everything here, but I'm pretty sure it is. Yep, these are old podcasts from Radio Stormer Network. This book was published in 1868. I need to know what his name is because he's another free namer, like a what the hell is with the M key? It's like stuck. Negroes in Negroland. What is his name? This is like a because it's basically a bunch. Okay, so you're watching me Google. Stoogle Magoogle. It's Occidental Descent. Let's see what they have to say. This is a compilation by Hinton Roman Helper. Okay. Just like I know his name, it's like 3 names. So you can find like the actual text. Now it's weird because I remember I somewhere I have a couple of like pieces of this that I've like pulled. And I remember all the time having a little bit of trouble because the format from here to there is a little bit wonky. But I think I might actually do finally actually order the book because it looks like you can get this is Search Other Club. Let's watch this or some of this. I feel like oh my God, this is like when everybody became Kirk Franklin. I mean, I don't know how many of you this stream will be familiar. Like, okay, I mean the Black Church, particularly Black Baptists, all those like niche Black American church experiences. Like, if anybody remembers Kirk Franklin, I'm not gonna go pull. Well, okay, Stump. That was like a big hit. So basically, like, I don't know. Has there always? I don't want to say always. I have no idea of verifying that. But okay, I'm on a tangent. I just saw the title and I was like, I have to click. Well, yeah, I guess like hasn't Black church always kind of been like this a little bit? But look at how goddamn casual they look. This is something that's bugged me for years. Like that Stephon Clark funeral a few months ago. Oh no, no, Negro, no, stop it, please. I mean, oh my God, they're like headbang mosh pitting this baby. But this always been. I mean, this is something that blacks, whites, and everyone's observed. It's always been this. This maybe been more of a musicality. I mean, it's the synapses aren't firing as quickly because usually I struggle like to kind of arrange words. Sometimes I'm trying to describe something, but anyway, yeah. This Church of the Club. No, I didn't say the beginning 2005. Yep, this is right around this. Yep. So it's right around the time where everybody like. I bet this is right around the time Kirk Franklin's like Stump and the whole kind of like singing and dancing. Everybody was going to be like it was like kind of gave everybody clearance for all the singing and the dancing and the bopping in the church with their I don't know. It just sounds like a Kirk. It's like everybody became like a bootleg Kirk Franklin. Like he could do it at his church, and they're all singing and dancing and making it all approachable and stuff. But like, do Black people really need to collectively make church more approachable? I'm gonna write that down. That's something I want to talk about for a while. Like Black people, the church differences, Christianity. Because I think when I first saw this like said by a few people, like, oh well, Blacks in America, the church, the Christian experience, it's not the same. Even with the introduction of Christianity to them here, back in the motherland and across the diaspora, in a lot of cases, it's still reflective of more innate, more genetic, more just evolutionary impulses that it's not the same entirely. I'm gonna stop there because then I'm just gonna like bob and weave through something that I should like stop and take a few notes on, and then come back to approach separately. So Negroes, Negro Land. For years, when I first was at this, I know I was introduced to this in the comment sections of American Renaissance years ago, and I went looking for it. And I think either this let's see, yeah, this would predate that. I mean, no, this came later. I finally tracked it down as an audio recording, but so I must have listened to it, or maybe some people just kept posting things. And I don't know. I mean, I want to say I listened to it at some point, but no, I would have had to have read it because it says 2015. I was familiar with this. This might be around the same time. I would say I was a little bit familiar with it already previously. So I've wanted to talk about some of the reflections of explorers into Africa for a long time. Then just more recently, within the past 2 or 3 years, particularly with Brooklyn Blue, Kendall St. Charles, and this is a big. Oh, let me write this down. This is a big announcement, or it's a tangent to an announcement that I want to make because this is very key. A lot of the BWE Black women kind of thinkers who even way before Kendall, before Crystal and Karazin, before a lot of what now is so funny looking back and what now is become just very constant. Like we talk about as Black women, and we're like, okay, these precepts, they do come from people previous to us. And let me just say that point because this is important. I was thinking about this week. So Negroes in Negro Land, I've always want to talk about. There's things that you read in these accounts that don't sound anything different than what I can walk out my door and see amongst Black people today. I think it'd be, especially because the kind of like the audience here on this channel that I engage I think it's something that would be very beneficial that will cut across both like segments, and I have a lot to say. Now you see, it's a 4-hour recording. I don't know how. I think I might just go pull certain things. I'll just give you a quick listen so you can see what Zen's voice sounds like. He's British.
Who authorizes me to say that he vouches for the entire truth of the two stories above related. And that, again, is from Du Chalot's Equatorial Africa, page 120. While I was talking to the kings...
Oh, I was going to wait to see if he had there's like these little musical interludes, just like some drums. So it's so interesting having been familiar with this. So by the time the more recent conversations that predominantly in this sphere were brought up by Kendall St. Charles and others, but just predominantly a lot of the, like, especially her earlier videos, maybe within the past year, like a year or so prior, that really delved into like slavery, tickle tip, a lot of history of the African slave trade that a lot of Black women were not very keen to, and a conversation that I've seen like kind of rip a hole in this kind of Black universe for a lot of us. So it's funny, when Kendall St. Charles started talking about this earlier a few years ago, I was already, because of Negroes Negro Land and other conversations I've had online that I've been able to engage amongst race realists, amongst your more American Renaissance, what have you, proto alt-right, dissident right circles, I was already well familiar with this. So when she started bringing it to the forefront, and I watched so many of you change, and I like I mean, now most of her videos they're gone from YouTube and then they're private on Vimeo. So you have to wonder where all a lot of those comments are. 'Cause one thing that's probably my biggest regret, more than even like just have access to videos, is the comments, the light bulbs like going off and then shattering into a million pieces. And for a lot of you, that was just like, and because I even myself, like and when you see it, you finally get it. It's like you can't put those blinders back on. And even today, a little bit in the past years, I've been catching up with things. And Cynthia G and the Great Liberators, she was doing some videos with Amiri Brown over the like prior to my going away, and I was listening to one that they did today. And so that's another 10. Let me just write that down and revisit it. Basically, in closing, Negroes in Negroland would be an interesting text to walk through, and perhaps also just to maybe pull some of these the pieces here. Well, I don't know how that would mean. It's 4 hours and 44 minutes. I would just say it's probably something you could probably put on during a work day or the weekend while you're cleaning the house, and you can just kind of listen through him very clearly read these accounts. And then you have your archive link here if you want to go find read through certain segments. Let me see. Do they break this down by timestamp here? They don't. Yeah, it might just be worth it for just for the sake of adding something to a piece of work that has been influential and helpful. Maybe I could just listen to it all the way through a timestamp. That's the only way that I really function when I'm doing something like this, some undertaking. So anyway, Negroes Negroland, you see it's 10 parts, or 11, excuse me. Something I wanted to do forever on the channel. Never knew how, when, or where. It's time to start putting some more of the big pieces up. And actually, I say this, I'm thinking about going back through the videos I've made so far. There's a few of them that I kind of think I should just revisit and maybe pull into like one video or something. And I may remove some videos because as I look backwards, especially the shaky cell phone era, maybe I'll re-record all the cell phone videos with some more updated information and just kind of revisit them and maybe just redo like a nice big video just on earlier videos, and we can rewatch them together. And I'm just gonna like probably toss them. I mean, man, can you imagine me like, was that 3 months ago already? 2 months ago? Oh, it's more than 2 months ago. Like 3 or 4 months ago now, me holding my cell phone. Hey, so let's talk about this. Anyway, so Negroes Negroland. That's also something I would throw out there. Anyone's interested, wants to talk about it, would have anything to contribute, maybe do my normal segment on it, reach out and see if anybody else is interested in talking about it. All right, so that's my other proposal there. Negroes in Negroland and Twin Peaks, two larger under discussions that I would like to have, and I would definitely love some help and someone who wants to contribute. Oh, hey, Babs, how's it going? Sorry, I mean, like, when you think of stuff like from nothing to home team or home team history. Define Mammy Mullen, please. You said in your chat with Hotep guy, who know what you're meaning. From nothing or home team history. Let me just, so I'm not familiar, but am I? I'm not. Let's come out of share for a second. Are we out of the share? Are we out of the share? I don't recall. I can't tell. Yes, you must be out of the share. Cool. I really don't like that the thing just spins. It just kind of makes me crazy, like watching. I know a lot of you people who make videos like, is there any way to like avoid this? Oh, Chris, I'm glad you're liking it. Okay, thanks. Technology is like confusing me, yo. Nothing home team history. You know what I'm gonna do? Just to save myself a quick search, real quick. Let me just move your questions. I will look it up in a second. Is that from some I was listening to something else from nothing. No, I was thinking that was up from history. That's not what you're talking about. Never mind. Okay, define mammy mulling. So interested what the best way with the term mammy, I would say in the funny parallel, if not even completely entirely. I always think of it this way. You know how like the gays started to reappropriate the term like gay and queer, and it became like, well, it's similar in a sense that the gays started calling themselves queers again to kind of reappropriate the word and kind of take and transmute the connotations and energy around it, and it's kind of become a new. It still means like a lot. Oh, then queer just used to be kind of like a synonym for. Then they kind of appropriate and use it as to mean gay, and that it's basically our experience of the word now. So with mammy, damn. But the term mammy is, most of us in American sense think of the very most prominent, one of the more prominent being Patty McDaniels and Gone with the Wind, the kind of Black woman, particularly kind of more husky, always overwhelmingly more of a dark-skinned Black woman who, was tasked with, taking care of the white family that she was employed by or enslaved by. But then, you go into later years where, I think even movies kind of like The Help, female caregiver, and of course the attachment to the definition kind of becomes, she's so, running around washing clothes, making food, caring after white. Maybe the is an implication that like, but let me not add my implications to it. So the mammy becomes like in this current sphere, particularly one myself, who kind of have the circles I run in. So a lot of that energy and what we kind of consider Black women in that time period previously, after running cover for baby and ripping and running around for the white man and his family, is the new appropriation, the new way that we kind of observe that term is for the Black woman flying around with a cape. Anytime like a white woman doesn't want to sit next to a Black man on an Amtrak train, she's right there on Facebook, running around talking about my racism, talking about how you just running after particularly the Black male collective, and then maybe just the general Black community in general, just to kind of clean up woman, run around here to take care of everybody in a kind of, well, in a sense that she ends up kind of being parasited by everyone around her in the race, and gives and gives and gives, but there's no return, there's no reward for it. So just that's a rough description, a definition of money. Has added that to the lexicon movement, define that term is basically what we think of enemy of a previous for man like family, doing the same kind of ripping and running around for the Black man and the general Black community to no reward or to no end. So then the muling part kind of just runs in tandem description. When you think of a mule, a pack mule. Time Kendall St. Charles, aka Brooklyn Blue, did this great study and kind of likened the Black woman to from Yote, the Rociante. I know I'm saying that real weird, but like workhorse pack mule in that story. So just taking that, branching back to mule. So that's what we say. I kept saying, being a mammy mule. That's kind of our term for these Black women. And I think with Hotep Jesus, one particular point that I know I said it a few times. Well, the Eric Gardner thing. I was re-listening to it. I had to laugh at myself because again, I was like running on a very tight time frame that day before that whole talk, and I guess kind of like with her, when I referenced that specifically, no one's, it was everything like, oh, he can't breathe. You got his daughter out there. Like this is a 1,000 level conversation, layered conversation, but there's so much of like Black women running interference, talking about the evil white man. I mentioned that, like getting for Black Lives Matter. Some black woman with a marker board sitting someplace about to march on City Hall. Like, if we're so overweight and unprotected. So there's so many reasons for the obesity. This has been a conversation that's been going on for probably the past few weeks. It's been going on for a while, and it always ends up on all these landmines. But God, I just did it again. Mammy Muling. I think I said it. Hopefully, I said enough. That's a video unto itself, because I really do wonder if someone added that to the Urban Dictionary by now. But it's become this like phrase that's really caught on amongst us, and it is loud because of the way mammy was an insult for at a certain period of time, and a lot of the pro-blackness that started to emerge in the last century. You didn't want to be some black woman, or you a black man cleaning up or fixing up after white folks, wearing a headscarf and singing Negro spirituals and frying chicken. And so it's kind of also become another by proxy insult in that same way, that we level other black women. Like there's another term called pick me, like the black woman who sits under Tommy Sotomayor's video, or Tariq Nasheed, or any of those He-Man black women haters, like, well, brothers, I'm not like them sisters, and I ain't dating no white man, and I'm not better than the black family, and they'll just sit there. Their little shitty YouTube comments get them nowhere. There's still 70% of out of wedlock births in this community. There's still more black men who've been marrying out and dating out since the 1960s, and something I want to talk about forever. Just level the black woman. It's funny that the black man, the black male collective, when they level that, don't understand or don't recognize that a lot of that feminism, that particularly, with some of his main crusaders being middle to upper middle class white and Jewish women, was what allowed them in the destruction of and the reduction of a lot of the social stigmas, social, cultural, and legal stigmas that prevented from having access to white women. So this feminism sword is so double-edged. It's something that now in the past decades leveled at black women like some kind of, ridiculous like charge and insult. But if you really unpack it, that's what allowed you the sexual access to white women and Jewish women, I guess, too, without getting clacked up by the white man, without, coming to some physical or other type of detrimental end. All right. So yes, Lux's clips are awesome. His editing skills are really good. And definitely a fan. Okay, Congolese people just need strong leadership. Yeah. Yeah, and I know at the end I got really, in that clip and that part of the chat, I got really cheeky because I knew I had to get off, and I wanted to kind of leave something there, but I meant what I said. It have a lot more nuance to explain to that, but in so many words, yes, there's strong leadership needed that blacks, in a collective sense here, across diaspora, the continent, never going to provide, and we're all have just for a long time, particularly the past post-World War II, 70 years that we've been living through these changes and experiments. So, yeah. And again, I can't believe I listened to her now. Like, I listen, it's just like, oh, I like listening to you so great. It's so funny. And her crew have been so diametrically opposed to black women like myself, black women. Now, there's a whole lot of different camps of us, because the swirlers. Now, she still is on that whole no race mixing thing. And the funny thing is, that's the key thing now. All of a sudden, black women like her, that women who follow her, we beef with for years now over a lot of their, that's okay. Out of many things, the one thing, well, we definitely don't want the black men to date now, but then they'll extra venom that they gave to black women who date out, and for whatever reason, and all the sunken pace swirlers, from Get Out, that's been like this saying for forever now. But they're coming to the same conclusions that black women like myself now, especially after getting their teeth kicked in online. She about some swatting or this or that, and she's watched black men basically give them a master kiss. And so women like her, they keep saying, where's the leadership, black men? We love you, we want this, where are you? And then you actually have to be honest. They'll come fight you about telling them about the swirl, and I don't know, it's a lot of things going on. Basically, women like her actually, even though we're on an ideological sense not very alike, they're coming to the same conclusions that we've come to years ago now. That this black male in particular, the black male in general, is not going to uplift you. They're not going to come home. They're not going to lead you. They're not going to save you. They're going to do goddamn fuck all. And even they have to admit that now. Doesn't mean they all like want to start like dating out and interracial dating or swirling. They're not talking about going gay. It's just basically they're ending up in the same timeline that we're on. And that's been the most interesting thing to watch within the past 6 months or so. Enough of these pro-black women who love melanin, they love their black people in this extended sense, they're even having to recognize that there's what you want, you're not going to get from this race. And if you find black people who are fellow travelers with you, by all means, no one's saying don't, but to keep asking this black male to like lead you someplace is absolutely it's foolish, because they're basically telling you in so many words they're not going to lead you. Like the Hotep Jesus thing, like it's funny. Like actually now maybe I'll send Luke 2 recommendations like this, but I'm kind of now like well, at least there's two black men who I think actually have a coherent approach. Let me find this for you, Babs. If you still listen, if you come back, this guy's interesting. I'll give him that. I again, and then I don't need to keep saying this. Like, well, I hate being like, well, check this out, but I don't agree with it. Well, I don't need to. It's not like I'm saying that just to be like some kind of thing or whatever. But I just have to say that because it's important. But this man actually has a coherent worldview that actually makes sense, and it's not like Hotep Jesus, which is basically just like clicks and coins. You know what I meant to ask him? No, I would have felt a little bitchy, just a little bit, but not too much, because he got to get a little slick, and I didn't call him one because I was like, we on a time frame here, but I almost want to call him one. He tried to get a little slick with me in his little black male slick mouth, the way like black men like to kind of talk down to black women. Um, and I just found that really funny. Now he doesn't have a coherent worldview. Talking about being on tour with some rappers. Somebody had 1 million Instagram followers he worked with. Because I was listening to the rest of the stream once I got the Uber and we were on our way to the airport, so I got to actually hear the rest of it. Anywho, so if I were to recommend someone, he has a lot of videos. I thought he had more than this, so maybe he's changed a few. This is ACBN, African Centered Biological Nationalism. Is like the abbreviation for his work. And yeah. So here's his about page. He's always not like in a real shilly way. Like he's not selling $100 bottles of woke water like the Hotep No Tips, Hotep Jesus and Uncle Mayhem and that crew over there. So, but he actually has a very interesting worldview about blackness needs to be centered around black people who are from medium brown to dark skin, who have African textured hair, and he, isn't like one of these umbrella black people, particularly with black men, where like it's funny. A week ago, now even he trying to do his whole Meghan Markle blah 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 thing on his channel. But the funny thing is, somebody like Meghan Markle, now for the majority of black men, when a Meghan Markle type sexes, dates, and produces children in a ride or die mammy mule type for black men, that chick she'd be black as an ace of spades. But because Meghan Markle, you can see it from her upbringing. I think I mentioned this previously. I may have to go back because that's my next note. So I want to talk about Meghan Markle and the TIG. And I guess I have to finally just kind of maybe just do a video about Meghan Markle and about the alt-right. No, I don't even want to say, because I know the general impression, exactly how that scene feels about this. It's such a funny subject because I have a complete understanding where the dissident right stands predominantly on the Meghan Markle question, British royal family, what this means, completely coherently understand exactly everything that is being said there. And then as for me, as black woman I am in the circles I run in, how we kind of watched and interpreted the Meghan Markle situation, it's a completely different discussion. So it's funny, like I understand completely how both sides sit on this whole thing. Anyway, that's something to talk about as well. But funnily enough, so he has a few videos here. Some are a little longer, some are a little shorter. It's where he did some. Maybe he didn't like keep them up. He did a few lives over the weekend. I was driving back, it came up in my notes. My notifications, and I listened in for a second. Yeah, so this is someone that actually has something coherent to say. He's not just trying to sell you woke water and just be like, whatever most huckster black male leaders are trying to do. Now, this is the Great Liberators. Just recently subscribed because like I'm really like a lot of black women in our circles. I were very cautious. I don't, because it's not my job to uplift black men in any collective way, shape, or form. Even if they're saying things I agree with, I'm always kind of other black women that show up in these circles. There was a couple fallouts with some following black women within the past few months. You just have to be careful about black people that you try to like support or all they're doing is they're talking stuff I want to hear and they sound great, blah. But he's really risen, and I think Cynthia G is really giving him a good platform with her, subscribership, and it's great. I think it's very good to a certain degree that she's finding a black male voice like this, particularly as she runs into all this like hell for the majority of black men as she starts to, as she could, she gets off of the same narrative. Oh, well, it's a wick welfare and feminism, blah, blah, blah. And as a scale starts from her eyes, it's great that I've listened to a few of his videos, I listen to their conversations, and I like what I'm hearing because it's actually between him and the last guy. I can disagree, and especially as a dissident right, more right leaning person, there's a world of like there's definitely a difference between our worldviews and outlooks. But the black conversations they're having specifically are things I've always thought, and it's kind of annoying in a sense to like this is just where we are in 2018. But it's maybe 2 or 3 people having like real conversations here, and after 10 years, almost man Black Women Haters Club, all the black male fuckery that in this black men like this who don't have anyone subscribing to them. They don't have enough people following them. And again, I'm not disappointed. I know since I understand black people a hell of a lot more sometimes. It's like I understand black people so deeply sometimes, but sometimes it's like I feel like I'm looking at like an alien, but then sometimes I feel like I'm looking at a reflection of myself. Anyway, so now after like the whole Tepery Jesus nonsense, part of me's like, well, it'd be kind of cool if Luke had one of these guys on, because then you actually can maybe have a functional conversation. I've never talked to either of these guys. Again, Hotep Jesus reached out to me in my comment section. And that's the only thing that really spurred that whole thing 2 Sundays ago. I don't know either of these fellas. I've never spoken to them, but they're 2 people I follow because I do want to keep an ear to the grind in what they're talking about. But yeah. Answer about Mammy is the maternal archetype and Jemima shit. Yeah, and that so yeah, like that's exactly. But what it's become, so it's morphed into in this modern day, probably within the past probably less than a decade. I mean, if we go back to again, that's another point I have to mention. Some of the more earlier BWE type black women, Khadija, Halima Anderson, Evia, who were writing these things, who were writing about a lot of these things back when it was even a lot more dangerous. Like a lot of black women were not coming to the forefront to say these things. A decade ago, I don't know if they may have used the terms or not. So it's been floating around at least for a good decade, this mammy term, and the idea now that it's more direct towards black women who just won't stop putting on the cape, that like for instance, like there's been some talk with the black woman at your office who, is all pro Black Lives Matter, running her mouth, getting fired, getting talked about, getting written up at work. Just yeah. So my grandma all about that stuff. Oh, thanks. I struggle for eloquence every day. Favors from nothing home teacher Marcus Garville. Yeah, I think I said in the comments because like I think it might have been you. No, no hate, no attack, but it's so funny. Like, I hear about Mark. I think I've heard Richard Spencer mention Marcus Garvey over the years. It's like I hear whites and Jews in these scenes talk more about men like this that from however many years ago more than I've heard one black person ever really reference these things in any kind of seriousness. And I think the biggest part of the whole thing with Garvey and any of those guys, even now you look at Malcolm, like for instance, I get so annoyed, and I was going to make a video saying if one alt-right, distant right person puts that damn Muhammad Ali Bluebird clip in my stream ever, I'm blocking you. Because I feel like this is one big beef that I have. Like, this is where the whole, when people talk the white nationalism 1.0 versus 2.0 scene, I think a lot of the 1.0 failed in not being honest about what was going on, or I just don't think the white nationalism 1.0 understood, especially for those in the 80s and 90s, kind of coming off the Lincoln Rockwell era, that they needed to have been a lot more serious and honest. And so you can sit there and talk about, oh, the blacks and the whites. I'm sorry, I'm reiterating a point that I already made before. Anyway, back to Garvey. Yeah, that stuff can be all nice and good, but it kind of proves itself. Like, do you know Frederick Douglass left his black wife for a white woman way back when? I didn't know this until a few years. This is within the past few years. Now I have to go back through and pull a little bit more, maybe pull something together in a video for you folks. But that's something that I've become privy to. So we can keep talking about these one or two isolated black men who say some stuff, talk some nice stuff for the people, but the vast collective of most black men and black people in general aren't really forward driven. I mean, we just kind of are people who have been at the whim of just, the dark continent, this kind of dark chaos that we probably existed in since the year died. Year zero for us is being introduced to, well, I guess in a proto sense, earlier sense, the Arab man and being taken to those worlds, but it doesn't really feel the same. I would kind of say the year zero is being introduced to European and being plucked out into the diaspora, or for those who stayed, being introduced to whites under colonialism. And there's not this like forwardness of black sub-Saharan descended people in any cohesive sense. It all really starts with you, Mr. White Man, and our exposure to you guys. That's kind of the year zero for sub-Saharan black people. And I just I think a lot of this kind of idea, this kind of like drivenness amongst us to lead ourselves to do something, is not something that's really part of our DNA. We're just kind of like the product of a lot of happenstance and chaos. And tangent alert, tangent alert. Why is Black American gender politics so toxic? That's the $1,000,000 question, and it's been this way since forever. I mean, this actually, let me try not to go off too much because I thought about this literally today. Because actually, Chrislyn Kerzen, she did a cool video about let's see. She did a cool video about movies. And this is the one of the most interesting comments I've ever read a long time ago. It was a black woman who said, and this, I think it was probably on a Kendall St. Charles video. And she said, where's our Sleepless in Seattle? Where are our, great romantic comedies and stories? Like, you could say how cheesy you think, I was thinking it's like, I don't want to get in trouble. Somebody can go tell Chris and Kira's and I said this. But like, funnily enough, if you kind of want an idea what I look like, especially because we both wearing kind of the same braids now, skin tone, she's kind of a longer face like I do. It's weird. She's only like, Kristen's like, what, 42, 43? I'm like 32, 33, basically. So if you kind of want an idea what I look like, somebody goes like, Kristen, girl, this girl, I ain't trying to say like, oh yeah, I mean, we just like, twins or something. But funnily enough, I have dimples and, obviously I don't look exactly like her. But if you want an idea phenotypically of what I look like, Kristen Kerzen wouldn't be a bad representation just because we have the same hair now. That's changed. I'm taking these braids out. I've had these braids for like 3 months. I'm like done. But I don't have a backup. I need some hair help. Like, sorry, it's a whole nother story. But yeah, so this video, she talks about the hero's journey. And she said she was having this conversation with a white male friend of hers. And they were talking, he was watching Braveheart. And this kind of conversation starts about black women, and they have to go down the list. It was funny because someone mentioned Django Unchained. Now, yeah, there's a slight romantic narrative to that. Like he's trying to save Broomhilda, Kerry Washington, blah, blah. So the gender politics are so toxic because I think this goes back before the white man. This goes back to a very evolutionary question. There is nothing there. This is such a big thing to unpack. There's not the same type of evolutionary pressures amongst sub-Saharan African people that happen to a varying degree everyone, but let's specifically focus on the white European, that had to give you a certain relationship to your women, a certain relationship to the seasons. The big thing that the sun people versus the ice people, the idea of like winter being one of the greatest evolutionary pressures on pretty much every mammalian species, if not, anything other classes of animals, that you have to have certain behaviors that come along. Things so and even so before we get to like the gender relationships, what is God, this is way too big a thing to say that. But basically it's so toxic primarily because there was never any evolutionary pressure for anything to really emerge that even resembles anything close to what ice people ended up with over millions of years of evolution and forays out of Africa and out of the Fertile Crescent. It's toxic not because of the white man. It's not toxic because of slavery. It's not even toxic because of the last 500 years. There's something that's just missing our evolutionary output that um, just isn't there. And this is one thing I'll say before I move on from that point, because I think about this quite a bit, how to phrase this. So we talk about slavery, how terrible the white man was, and how horrible everything was. But the funny thing is, when I think about it, well, besides not running away, you had your slave quarters, and obviously I need something to put to this to really flesh this out. But it really seems like whites, and again, since slavery, everyone wasn't a slave, there wasn't like this. So whites were just so like all over black people all the time. If we think about the slave quarters, were whites there like making sure black people didn't spank their kids enough, spank them too much, um, drop in on some of like the relationships. I mean, Cynthia G has brought this really interesting thing about this term, the plantation book. It kind of relates it to the modern day black man and how basically, if you think about for a long period of time, this even goes back to the matrilineal societies in Africa, where basically black men, let's just say sub-Saharan descendant African men, because of that predating our interaction with whites, that is the kind of base level default that we've operated on for probably thousands, if not maybe a few million years in the evolutionary sense. So then we get introduced to white man, into diaspora, into like either slavery, some kind of captivity, some type of whatever. So then it's exasperated in a certain sense because then the white man is by de facto the provider. Because Cynthia Jews basically saying black men just were plantation bucks, a lot of them. They maybe had sex with a few women this plantation, a few over there. The white man was the one picking up the bill, the one running the majority society. There's not really ever been this place for black men to be these patriarchal leaders and movers and shakers. And so a lot of this conversation today is really misguided because it's really missing that point. And even in that interim period for us as Americans, we get to end the Civil War up until about the 60s or so, that they came on the 60s and everything fell apart. But the funny thing is, you weren't ever really doing anything. Like, you basically had this 100-ish year lull period that we don't really talk about enough. People like myself were descended from just the ex-slaves and ex-sharecroppers who hung around the South until about the 60s when they moved north. There's not this whole history of black men. Like, it's funny when they tell it, like, well, back in slavery or in after that, we were such. It's like it's funny the way they say it. It almost sounds like there's all these little like cottages, these nuclear slave families. Leroy and like Bertha, and they're like 3 kids, and he gets up and goes to the plantation and picks cotton all day while she sits at home with the kids. It's like, nah, nigga, nah. We was out there picking cotton with you. We were getting the lash just like you. Now, I'm not completely, I'm not gonna say like, it was exactly the same. I mean, there are protections that women and even children are afforded race side in a majority white society. But it's a mistelling and a misunderstanding. I think even this is where the alt-right, where I was kind of getting at the Hotel Jesus thing, a lot of you guys fall into is you're sometimes using the big crack of brains to try to like have this commonality with black men, particularly the narratives they've been telling recently, without enough context to understand that your story is not theirs. I see this way too much with the MGTOW red pill scene and this whole single mom thing that see, especially like Arini and Forney and a lot of that crew. And it's like this thesis they keep trying to draw. And well, just like the blacks, it's like, no, it's really not just like the blacks. Like, please stop saying that. I'm sorry that white divorce rates and all those associated familial changes have been affecting whites since the 70s, but you really need to write a history of your own and not try to like just tie it to this thing. But yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, Garvey lived and existed now almost like, I don't know, it's like a century ago. So it meant something, and this is the thing. This is even my point with Hotel Jesus. It meant something when the buck stopped with the white men. So maybe there were more pressures on black men and black people collectively to make certain changes. But even now with Garvey and Live, and I've not read Garvey. I've not read Ralph Ellison. There's some black work that I think I should go revisit at some point or go visit and read, but I'm less and less interested in, to be honest. But just for the sake of these conversations, I feel like I should be more well versed. But it's just too late for a lot of this because, especially if without the '60s Great Society, without the changes, social, sexual, racial changes, there's been too much of a disruption, interruption to all of us, to where these things are so impossible, or way more impossible, even more than they were before. So, from what I understand of Garvey, as you and others over here have kind of like clued me in on over the past few years, yeah, it all sounds like admirable stuff, but it's, in any collective sense, it's not gonna like happen. And it's more beneficial to, I think, especially for whites who even like, and Jews like yourself who see this, to just say, look, if there's a few of you out there who get it, Garvey, great. Let's expect the collective of black people, or any new sizable amount of them, to really, because so it's funny with Garvey, the argument even there was something that could have been used. But now the whole argument in a collective sense has been morphed into white supremacy and reparations and blah 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 blah, and it's gotten so toxic amongst so many general black people that I don't even know how, after like so many things that blacks have said in that sense now, even just the past 2 decades, that you can even kind of undo that or remap some of their brains. Like, the focus has been so much on the structure of white supremacy, structural white supremacy. I mean, even with these people like the Mary Brown's mentioned, great liberators, like that's become such a part of the dialogue that God damn it, I don't even know if people can walk that back at some point. The white supremacy, Gari's Ali's only answer white supremacy with just diaspora people like us. Yeah, it could be with, again, the Jewish experience and the black experience. I mean, there's parallels. I've always kind of wondered, in a loose sense, was especially as you hear, you've heard this told, how my first intro to JQ and all right, especially related to the black experience, was, the Jews started putting this stuff in the black people's ear pretty much from the end of slavery onwards, dot, 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 here we are now. And I always kind of now, the last year or two, I've thought this, I've wondered, because of diasporic people kind of similarities, and then was it easy for certain segments of Jews to start, because of the post-Holocaust and that kind of story, was it really easy for them to get into the black person's ear about oppression because there was already this kind of baseline sharedness there? Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I've always wondered, like, just what made that relationship just kind of pop off, especially when we get to the '60s, and a lot of the civil rights leaders. Funnily enough, Alice Walker was she wrote the famous like book The Color Purple back in the '70s. Well, it came out in the late '60s, and she was married to a Jewish guy, Mel Leventhal. They had a daughter, Rebecca Walker, who's a writer today. She wrote a memoir. This is one of my first racial experiences, reading her memoir, her autobiography, Black, White, and Jewish. And she talks about, this, her parents kind of called her a movement child, and it's kind of reflective of some relationships that we now hear about, even more so today, between blacks and Jews. So funnily enough, and this is where the alt-right kind of like made it, this is when the JQ really started to break through for me, because I was like, that's what they mean. So I always thought, like, oh, Alice Walker just married this white man in the '60s, and Quincy Jones just married this white woman, aka Peggy Lipton, who we can circle back to Twin Peaks, who played Norma on the show. He, if you're familiar with The Office, Rashida Jones is one of their daughters. So that's so funny, that whole question about, blacks and Jews, these similarities. So that's there. But even more interestingly enough, when, the alt-right and the dissident right talk about the JQ and the whole Jews kind of shape shifting as white people. So a lot of the time, I just like, oh, they're married to these white men. And I remember, so when I started to think about these things later as an adult and getting introduced to that question, that's when, and so people have those red pill moments. I was like, oh, all those white guys and white women weren't white, they were Jewish. And they were all race mixing with black men and a few black women. In the 60s, Lorraine Hansberry, who wrote A Raisin in the Sun, she was married to a Jewish man for a certain amount of years before she died pretty young of like cancer. There's another example in there. Maya Rudolph from mostly Saturday Night Live fame. Her mother was a black singer, Minnie Riperton. I don't know his name, but then her father's Jewish. And, I saw her, Minnie Riperton, and, married this white man. Exactly. So it's interesting talking about this because that was one of my kind of like JQ red pill moments when like, it's like, I understand what they mean now because if you go talk, even today, you still hear this like, Hollywood and all them white Aryan Kangs running Hollywood. And I just like chuckle to myself, like, it's funny, like I've watched like a lot of the black collective get into like the whole Alex Jones tier stuff within the past few years, just like a decade almost after most average people did. So it's gonna be real funny, or it'll get real interesting if they start understanding the JQ. But see, I don't think they ever, because this whole white, see, that's the real interesting thing. If that were to happen, well, it's weird because it happened with Public Enemy back in the day. Wasn't it Professor Griff started calling out the Jews? So it's weird. You get like the Farrakhan's and the Professor Griffs who started going hard on the Jew. But I don't think it'll collectively ever happen because even if black people get it, you can't bite the hand that's fed you for the past 50, 60 years. So that's another thing I said the Sunday Hotep Jesus, when you see this, like, well, how are we going to unite with the blacks and get them to fight the Jews like the Patrick Little reparations thing? That's what the first red flag. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not going to happen. And it just makes you look silly. And I think that if you want to talk about the ADL, JIDF trolls, that feels like something that they would kind of send you on a goose chase to think it's really going to happen in a cohesive sense. Because if there's enough whites privately probably have enough money to support the ethno state that you could probably turn to that aren't Jewish, with the 1% of black people employed in entertainment, media, culture, some derivative that that more than likely in more cases than not is has direct Jewish money, influence, and support. What are they going to start doing, like, Sig Highland? No, they won't even have the option. Not to say a majority of white people would have that option either, but probably more so, more of you. And even if outside of that, land, resources, survival skills, running the power grids, even, the white man who has a few tools and who pays your sidewalk, that's more collective white support that white people find from the bus boy all the way up to a CEO here and there that black people can't even say that they have in any collective sense. But yeah, let me stay on point. Man, this is good. Like my brain has been like so tied up though. So Babs, thank you for the great intellectual workout tonight. How do you feel about white supremacy though? Beauty standards, cultural norms, historical narrative. You know, that's a great point. Something else I haven't thought about recently. It's easy to get upset. Like now, I think I've said this a few times. I think I mentioned Dennis Dale when we talked like a few weeks ago. The comments about black women, particularly even over here in the alt-right, this and the right. And I remember like maybe a year ago when I really started hitting into a lot of this BWE kind of like knowledge and absorbing a lot of things. It's particularly in something that happened with someone that all of you would know. And I gotta say, someone asked this a few weeks ago. I haven't decided how I'm going to tell you guys. It's a very interesting story. So I had this experience. Someone that, if I mention their name, you all would know exactly what I was talking about. You'd be surprised. And this black person via email, and it's just this thing that happened to me like a year or two ago, and I really trying to resolve it still. Basically, I've hit the epiphany that it's the white supremacy standards. It matters, but it doesn't. The Jewish man, even with his jokes about his overbearing Jewish mother and the annoying Jewish girl or whatever, there's a lot of love there. And then the world and life that you have built for yourselves and for your people, even as diasporic people, with the problems that you guys probably have behind closed doors, sometimes amongst each other, there's the rest of the world's privy to. Even with, the kind of blonde hair, blue eyed ideal, which is actually only a later byproduct, by the way. That's not something that was always this white standard. It's actually, from what I've been told, that I've come across, that's really something that the late 50s It's funny. It's actually, I saw this kind of white nationalist feminist, Orwell's daughter, kind of blame it on the Jews, pushing this blonde hair Aryan kind of thing in the 50s in the movies. Anyway, basically, you guys still uplift and love your women, and you may date out, race mix out. Jewish men and white men, have been known to date and procreate with a fair amount of Asian women in their own spaces, whatever. The Indian man, his woman, physically, you get the kind of Bollywood type chicks, but even among the darker, swarthier ones amongst them, I imagine that sometimes, especially for them being so skin tonally close to us, sub-Saharans, that there's definitely, we know for a fact, amongst men and women, there's a whole host of colorist issues about dark skin, light skin, and what that means. But they have Bollywood. They probably have some of the same inclinations to be maybe more attracted to whiter and lighter skin. But you don't, there's no like Muhammad Nasheed or Tommy blah, 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 blah. I was gonna try to be racist and make up some like Indian name. I'm just gonna slip there and slur. Basically, everyone that's not white, they probably has their relationship with white supremacy, how they feel about beauty standards, but they do what they can for their own people. They make sure the daughters and wives and the women in their clan are loved and respected and protected, at least publicly. What happens behind closed doors amongst Jews, amongst Indians, amongst Hispanics? I bet it's a whole host of things, but we don't hear about it from y'all. The only race of man that will sit here and tell the whole world that his mama, his daughter, his girlfriend, his niece, the women of his clan ain't shit. All the things that have been said about black women and publicly by black men, because there was a time where we kind of kept these things to ourselves, and even amongst black people, this idea of like not telling all your business because the white folks might be listening. That was kind of a de facto way we acted for a certain period of time. But for a lot of reasons, that obviously has changed, and that isn't the case. But yeah, someone said it was. What other race man runs to tell the whole world that the woman that gives birth to him is ugly, that's a piece of shit, that's this or that and third? Now again, we've read accounts of Jewish men talking about, how for whatever reason, there was a crush on this white girl, white women that they've always loved. You've heard the Indian guys talk about it, you've heard the Hispanic guys, heard every non-white man talk about this. But they can do that without dragging the women who birthed them. The only person that does this is the black male. So my relationship with the white supremacy and beauty standards, beauty standards in particular, is talking about that. It is what it is. I live in a first world Western society created by and for the majority white European population. That's just what it is, and I have no problem with that. My problem is my own collective race, particularly black men, dragging us in for filth and not doing what other non-white men who also inhabit and share this first world Western society do. They can feel privately how they feel. Actually, this is funny. I told this person in his email exchange after a couple exchanges, this black man just completely, like, sister girl mom, he had me all fucked up, and I just finally just went off and I said this, and I stand by this today. And I was like, it's funny. If you guys really wanted white women so bad, why couldn't you just maybe sex them on the side, pay one, whatever, don't pull a Bill Cosby and Quaalude their ass. It's like slide the bitch a check or an envelope of money at the end of the night. I don't care what you do. But you could have kept the genes and the generational wealth in the race. If for those who actually married out and dated out, but then even amongst then that would at least have stemmed some of the tide of this 70% out of wedlock and all the other shit that we keep talking about. If you just would at least kept the genes and the wealth in the race. It's funny, especially since seeing how black mammy mule women still write songs to this day, and they've been singing dumb songs like this that make me embarrassed for most black women about, oh, you may be the side chick or the baby mama, but I love him. Black women have written music and they dance in the clubs to songs about sharing with other black women. So I honestly don't think that black women, just as spineless and gullible that they are, wouldn't have minded in knowing that they may like to sleep with white women on the side. Martin Luther King, banging the white hoes before he got shot. Funny thing enough, Martin Luther King picked the lightest and the brightest black woman he could find. He was kind of like a pre-Matthew Knowles with Beyonce's mother, picking some light-skinned woman because he couldn't go fully white. Steve Saylor, actually, I was on a Twitter back and forth with him about this, and we agreed, like, Obama couldn't get away with it doing the political things that he wanted to do even a few decades later. But again, if you want, I don't mind the whites. It's not white supremacy is it's the first world Western world they live in. I bet the Jews have created more stable societies probably over time for themselves in Israel and other places that they, things that they have built out. The Asians have done it, the Hispanics have done it, everyone else has done it but this black male. So, you know, hell, maybe I wish I was one of y'all because, even as non-white people, y'all manage to function in some coherent sense, not all the nuttiness that you see with my people. Um, hmm. Iraq simply because I like seeing people look like myself. Yeah, I've never, I don't want to say never. In a large sense, I've never kind of felt that way about seeing my reflection amongst people. But then from a very early age, I was just had such a different relationship with like black people and blackness that like it's a little tricky to say, but I totally understand that sentiment a lot. I don't know. I've been envisioning now all these years as a dissident, right, alt-right leaning person. And where do I want to live? I don't know. I guess, see, it's like I can't figure out which came first, the chicken or the egg. Is it because I feel more comfortable amongst whites and majority white society because of the influences and the cultural things that I support, things I like in my own personal life that from a young age, even when I wasn't aware, was cultivating? So do I prefer whites because of that, or even now, just in the past few years, I started asking myself, well, do you prefer it now because you were subconsciously doing these things before you even race aware about the entire racial question, and now that you've been through so many different sides of it, do I have this stance now because even if I had never had it, now I understand blackness and black people and the whole sub-Saharan African experience over the past couple thousand years, knowing now that no matter what I do know about the dark content, I do know about us, had the white man never showed up, I probably wouldn't exist. So do I now by proxy prefer a majority white society? Because it's a weird question. So like, Babs, I give it to you. That's really something to ask. And I think I really only started to ask myself that question. Yep, movement child. I know that's kind of funny. White man, black special urban area simulations as Europeans. They look white to me. Yeah, it's like the old Chris Rock joke. He's like, what did he say? Like, oh, it's like this. Oh, the old Chris Rock joke. I think it's from Bigger and Black. He's like, I don't know how it starts. But basically, I ain't never walked in no barbershop and hold a bunch of brothers talking about the Jews. Black people don't hate Jews. Black people hate white people. We don't care where you're from. We hate everybody. You can get all the brothers say, "I'm from Romania." You Romanian cracker. It's just this joke, and it's just I thought of that on Sunday. Yeah, like some get it and they understand it. So I've heard especially a few BW conversations because Kendall St. Charles lives in Brooklyn, or she's from here originally. She still lives in New York. I think she lives in Brooklyn. Simone 5 6 is from New York, and Chrysalin. There's some video, of some black woman yelling at some Jewish guy on the subway about something, and it was just weird. So it's interestingly how they get it, especially the New Yorker black people, particularly those who have dealt with Hasidic Jews. So it's like where it comes in spaces and places. But interestingly, I thought about maybe talking about this once. I started writing this essay years ago. The Jewish identity, particularly when you think about certain filmmakers and certain regional differences. So you have the Hollywood West Coast Jewish identity you think about. The Hollywood producers, movies, blah, blah, blah. The East Coast kind of like fact and fiction, like your Woody Allen types, that kind of East Coast Jewish thing we think about. But then the North and then the South particularly, like David Cross is Jewish and he's from the South. I listened to a lot of his old routines back in the day. And, there's Jews there, but not, they have a specific experience with the South. There's a really famous play called The Last Night of Ballyhoo. It's a play about, actually, we did this in theater in middle school, no, elementary school, no, high school, blah, blah. And this is about the Jewish experience with white country clubs in the 50s. And I can't remember the whole story, but it's called The Last Night of Ballyhoo. And I believe it took place in the South, if I'm not mistaken. And it's very much about Jewish identity, the 50s, how they felt, the inside, outside, in-group, out-group thing. And then you think about the Northern experience, and I specifically reference the Coen brothers, who are actually from this area where I live currently in Minnesota. They're Minnesotans, and it's interesting, like the kind of Jewish identity they put forth, whether it's there really appearing in some films it's not even there. And like A Serious Man, for instance, I didn't think I'll rewatch. I went and saw that at the theater with someone. They were kind of bored, not interested, and I kind of was like annoyed. And I remember really liking that movie a lot. So that's something I would like to rewatch again at some point. So there's just this difference in being amongst Jews, and I'm just someone who's not Jewish, and I'm just saying, what? How did I start there? Oh, they look white to me. So, well, yeah. So black people in the East Coast, particularly if you're New Yorkers, there's a lot of them, and there's a lot more interaction with Jews. Maybe West Coast, maybe one thing, but the North and the South in particular, there's not enough of an experience. And so then unless you see someone that's very much Orthodox or Hasidic, I think most black people understand that's a Jewish person that's real Jewish. Otherwise, more often not, again, they're just fellow white people. Like the fellow white people meme is funny on so many levels because for a lot of me, like I literally, and it's weird because I mean, there are a lot of Jews who just feel like fellow white people. Like, Babs, I'd ask you, are you familiar with Savage Hippie, the podcast with David Cole, Edwin David, and Ann Sturzinger? It's like one of my favorite. It's probably one of my favorites. And I want to see them like do more stuff. I know they all like work and do a lot. Like, especially this kind of like it's kind of Luca-verse that like a lot of y'all we're all kind of like run around now. Like, I would love to see more of them. But anyway, Edwin. He's like, he's Jewish. He's like Russian Jewish. His parents moved over in the 70s. Got a bunch of tats. He's a big punk rock guy. Like, and he keeps, him and David talk about it. And it's weird because it's just the two of them. And they're both very different Jewish experiences. Like, they're different age, upbringing. Edwin's from Michigan. David's born and raised in LA. They just have like, and so I've always, one of my favorite parts of that podcast, just when they do talk about being Jewish and just how disparate and different both of their experiences are. I don't know. That just kind of made me think of it's a varied experience, and the whole thing with Mike Enoch and the whole Jew wife thing and all that, because someone pulled like, oh, he basically admitted he's Jewish, and it was something he said akin to the fact like, well, I mean, he could have just been riffing, and he may or not have meant to say it this way. He wasn't necessarily saying it was Jewish. I don't know. I just remember somebody pulling it, and it was like something like, well, I kind of feel like I've done enough, like that I deserve to be here, or like I'm not one of those Jews, or it's something to that effect where, people get so autistic about this comment. It's weird. So with me and this Jewish question, especially with relates to the scene, it's funny because I've had, people get like lippy with me, like, well, you didn't do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, at least there's no way for me to play no fellow white game with you. You see me, I'm obviously like black, like, do I have to quote, I'm blackly black, y'all. But like literally, there's none of that. Like, so that's one thing I remember once thinking a year ago, damn, that's why I can't stand these Jews. Well, think about it though. Wouldn't that be so cool? Like, I mean, in a way, I get it. It is subversive, but I would have to, I mean, I don't feel like I have to explain like the person I am. I mean, it's something I feel like I do, like why I feel or believe a certain thing. But with that ability to kind of ape whiteness or not have people stop to ask, there is a lot more wiggle room to kind of like navigate in. So I get the frustration of like whites this scene where like, because that's probably what annoys them so much in that sense. But for me, there's no ability to even do that. If I wanted to do it, like, hello, like, there's no shape shifting over here. Like, like I told you, like I'm like a ringer for, I could be Crystalline Kierson's like cousin, like her second cousin or something like that. There's no shape shifting over here. I don't get to like be my fellow white people in any kind of physical sense of the term. So it's weird. Like I completely understand that impulse and why that maybe so viscerally strikes a lot of these JQ woke folks. And I get it because I don't get, and then it's weird because then like I don't get to do that. There's no, even if I wanted to, and I wish in a way for a day it'd be cool if like I could do that. And then I wouldn't have to maybe explain certain things or feel a certain way like about being the person I am. Like you'd have a little more wiggle room just to like see me and I go, oh, that's a black woman standing there. But yeah. Coen Brothers rock. Yeah, everybody hated well not everybody, like people got really mad about Fargo, but I find it so endearing. Like they're like kind of stories of the Midwest, particularly are so endearing. So like them, Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno, and Jennifer's Body and Young Adult, all of which take place pretty much within this general state. There's just so many rich, and David Lynch with Twin Peaks, you know, it's more of Montana, kind of Midwestern or more East, Upper Pacific West. They just these people who tell these really rich narratives that, you know, they strike me, and it's so weird when people say, "Oh, well, you're not white and you're black," but then with them particularly, it's like it strikes me in a geographical sense of being from this part of the country and the stories that we tell. But anyway, Anne Sturzinger rocks. Like Nova Scum is a really good book, and I've been wanting to review it, but the hardest thing is the biggest part of it is the ending, or just right towards the end. And I feel like I can't really talk about the book without talking about that. Because actually, when I tripped my mom, like it was fun, but there was kind of a few like, you know, mom daughter moments where it's like, eh. And I was, if anyone's familiar with her book Nova Scum or Nowhere, like the relationship between Lester and Martin, and that kind of like parent-child thing. In a weird way, I thought about that this past week with my mom. But anyway, yeah, Anne Sturzinger rocks. I feel similarly African American blacks and Kelly more relaxed. Yeah. So again, that's what I made know the Meghan Markle thing. So I really want to talk about that because I did mention in my last video that like there was this girl who transferred to our high school from California with her mother, and she had dreads, and she like, you know, it's weird because out there she sounds like a normal Californian. If you listen to Crystalline Kieran in her videos, you know, she sounds like a Californian, and out here to us in the Midwest is like, you know, you sound white, you know, and it's so weird because still screen sharing because it's, and I bet in New York or another place it would be the same story too. This kind of feeling of like being different and being not black enough, but then it's really with them. Like I remember her and the girl who her and her mom both had dreads, and she just was like a Californian kind of like stoner chick, but in the Midwest, especially northern cities, majority chocolate cities like Milwaukee was, it was just like, well, who's this girl acting white? You know, and I feel bad for her in a sense. I wonder how like strange that was. But yeah, like you get different parts, like East Coast I'm aggressively anti-white. Oh, really? More button down in the South. Yeah, I haven't spent enough time in either place to really, you know, get the feel for it. Like I've been to the South a few times, just briefly. So I've never really, and this is all within the past decade. So like, didn't interact with any black people at all, and the few people I did interact with were white. So I never really got the understanding of it. Yeah, I hate my fellow whites' ambiguity. Probably Middle Eastern Hebrew, but mostly Ashkenazi Jews and diaspora Jews are not proud of their Levantine blood. Yeah, you know, but is it a sense of pride, or is it too, but also the sense like when you all eat, when everybody eats McDonald's, is it maybe just also just so much of this kind of like Americanness that, you know, for better for worse, like even though we all know that it doesn't just take a cheeseburger, a pocket constitution, the flag for all of us to like racially, ethnically not be different, but depending on, for the most part, in most parts of America that are very first world, you don't have to go like dig a toilet out in the yard or go grow your own corn or something. That maybe some of the Jewishness that, well, yeah, I mean, I see what you mean, like maybe lack of pride in it, but are there maybe just enough Jews in America at this point, post, you know, year 2000, so many generations later, where so many of them just feel like, you know, they'll make a Larry David tear joke about the Holocaust, but then, you know, they're sitting there, you know, playing Xbox with their real literal fellow white people, and there's not a thing. Like even with black people, especially those under 30 and younger now, like again, I feel like this is like, someone at Ameren got all lippy with me, like you can't say black boomers, like the boomers are like white, and I'm like, well, it refers to a certain time of people being born. But then, so even if we do mean the majority of white society at the time, there were black people being born, Asians, Hispanics also in certain numbers here too. They were wearing bell bottoms and living some of the same experience alongside them. So I don't really know what your deal is, like getting lippy with me about that. Like, you know, and So Yvette Carnell, she's this goofy black lesbian lady on YouTube, and it's funny because I was thinking about what she was saying, like because she's kind of giving voice to this, that a lot of like the black people of like the 70s who were coming of age in the 60s, 70s, post World War II era, a lot of the government jobs are opening up. The post office, all the federal down to local municipal statutes about hiring black people. They live in still. It's like black people, like the way like too many white kids started LARPing as Woodstock kids. Remember the Gin and the bell bottoms got really big, like probably back when we were like in middle school, and everybody became a hippie. Like this the same way I think a lot of this, even Black Lives Matter to a degree, is that kind of LARPing. Like everybody wants to imagine themselves on like the bus to the Birmingham Buscot, or what was the city with the Buscot and the buses, wherever. So you get like a bit of LARPing to a degree, even with black kids, where most of them have no problem playing Xbox, sitting around, going to school, eating Cheetos, like anyone else does. It's just this opportunity to feel like, you know, look, the way they started. Remember Peter Brokaw and all that Greatest Generation hookery, the Woodstock books they started like a decade ago to capitalize on that. You see enough Kid Burns documentaries, and everybody just wants to feel like they're like a part of something or whatever. I don't know. Never got Black San Francisco, LA, London. Black Boomers greater than Black Beatles. It's only black women government. It's funny is, yep, I remember when this whole New York Times thing. I'm gonna try this out on the deck real quick because I really want a cigarette and I really want to like stop just yet because I'll probably stop soon. So it just totally helped me in my like crazy nap, man. So there was a whole thing in New York Times a few months ago. Oh, poor black boys, they got no jobs. And the article basically was so funny because I've been waiting for this for a minute. Basically insinuated something where the black women, we're the new white man. We got all the jobs. White man, black man will get white men will give them no jobs. But it's so funny because a lot of those civil rights great society dictates were for opening up and hiring black people. And then black men, particularly with this narrative, are being willfully ignorant to the fact that a lot of them work for the post office, got jobs in local city government too. A fair amount of the black middle class, as we think of it, is, if not directly, is even tangentially tied to the fact that, with a lot of changes, most in the public sector, and some trickling over to the private, allowed for the opening of jobs to hire non-whites, particularly black people. But I remember saying to Steve Saylor's threat, like, well, hey, I mean, with the Mexicans, for better for worse, you go landscapers and working in the back of the house in the kitchen, cooking. White man with his middle manager regional insurance executive job, white woman working at a gym or hairstylist or, you know, uh, insert, I don't know, I run out like things to attach white women to do for work. Black women in government jobs. Now, think about it though. I'm happy with that because funny thing, especially all the crying and belly aching about white men won't hire us and we still unemployed. But it's like at least, hey, I'm glad that black women are known for like working. It's not a good look to like not be known for not having no damn job. And it looks even worse when your own women work. But again, maybe like some people argue, especially a lot of like kind of like the kind of one of the conservative critiques I read in college was like, well, the rise in managerial state, kind of coming off of the New Deal, was almost like the precursor to slow transition to more service jobs. But again, everyone else like kept working, even white. So all the white guys who lost their jobs in the factories in the 50s and 60s or the 70s and so on, when they moved over, we saw white men move to another inner ring suburb. The ones who didn't kind of catch on to the technological era, they held on, like, working in HVAC, mechanics, things that you just basically more latchkey kind of, was that what you call like startup job, latchkey job, or that's not the word I'm looking for, turnkey. So everyone else managed to keep working, even with the jobs going to Mexico, then going to Indonesia. With the rise of technological age, even more and more automation. Everyone else managed to keep working except for this black man. So at a certain point, I just have to start asking, like, why ain't they working? And yeah, the government thing is going to be key because too many black women and black people collectively put way too much stock into that, and it's not going to last forever. You start to see the kind of like the slow trickle with the Tea Party movement, but that was the funny thing. I think the alt right missed a big point in that. you could have like, well, the alt-right didn't really, well, not in this incarnation in the past 2 years that we know it, didn't really exist during the Tea Party. But it was so funny because this is why I was drawn to the Tea Party, because it's funny to talk about dogs, white people are dog whistling, racism. And the funny thing is, I was thinking, yeah, and like this is why I like them. Like, yes, like there's too many Negroes like sitting here like sucking from the tea, And then now that I can feel that out even further by saying like, yeah, Black Keisha and Deborah ain't gonna stop the collective of them. Now it's changing. It's a slow moving iceberg. They're not gonna stop laying down with Leroy from the corner or Darnell from the post office. And if we don't slowly start to pull back these goddamn safety nets, there's nothing that's gonna make them stop. They'll come cut you before they let go of their cangs and keep mammy muling. So the only thing that's really gonna stop this is like, yeah, cut the social safety nets. But then as for those who work in government, it's so funny going like Black women Section 8 welfare. At work, I noticed this, and I've been thinking about how to talk about this. At my job, this is about maybe like what 500 people work in the office building I work in for a company, maybe less than 500, maybe more like 200 or 300. I don't get my numbers wrong. There's maybe 3 Black men, maybe. I want to say 2 because one of them got fired. Let's just say 2 to 3 that I visibly see, maybe 5. And then there's also like the people who work for the facility. It's like one of the office parks. Like that, the other Black person might be the guy who like works for facilities management. I don't know. Black women, I'm like one of maybe 20. I maybe less. I would say anywhere from like 10 to 15, maybe 15 to 20. Let's be a little conservative. Let's say 10 to 15 of us. So there's a fair amount of us, like and I'm always kind of like, where was I going with this? Oh, the jobs. God damn it! It's funny how like my brain is like firing a little bit better. Those naps really help. So it's pretty quiet out on my deck. So I'm gonna go out on the deck. Hopefully everything can still be heard. Shoot. Oh wait a second, I left something in there. Man, I've been going probably for about an hour or so, but it's good to be back. Sometimes they say you need a vacation from the vacation, and that can totally be true. Especially when you're planning everything, and I like planning stuff. I just have never done an overseas trip before, so this was definitely one for the record books. Okay, no screen share. Um, 1 second. So I guess since I've been doing this for a little bit, close. It's so nice out tonight. I guess I should do is just wind down the last few points that I wanted to make. I want to come back. I think maybe tomorrow. Like I said, I want to just get back. I want to get to a video a day output. Just dropping in. I want to talk about this Trump North Korea thing because I found 2 really cool articles I thought were really interesting. I know I said that earlier in the stream. So there's that. Oh, so what I'm looking to do. Oh, we started talking about Meghan Markle for some reason. Oh, the California Black people thing. Yeah, I kind of want to revisit that point because again, that Miss Archduchess video she did was like super like those 15 reasons that many Black women will miss the Meghan Markle effect because she just says a lot of really cool things in there um that I just kind of still want to touch on. I don't think I did that video really justice to what I did previously, so I just revisit that again so I can delete the other one. So I want to delete even something I'm not so happy with. I don't want to delete just yet. It's because I have this idea of like oh, tangent. Let's revisit that. Got it. 10 tips for the alt-right dissident right. I have to flesh out these really well, but this is something that there's like, okay, I'll just give you a sample one that I think I've said previously. Think about, mm, think about the tiny home movement, and I mean, I know that it was like really covered for like a while, a lot of like news sources and people. Then it kind of trickled off, but that's one thing that I remember. I remember hearing that. I was like, well, that's something people talk about the ethno state and all right. Well, that's a step in that direction, that maybe purchasing some land. Like, there's got to be, hell, even in these damn streams and talking to people, there's got to be about good 5,000. And I'm going to just be generous. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of just pulling that out of the air. 5,000 people across this scene who could like meet up and know each other. It's okay. It's 50 states. Let's even just say there's like 100 people. What would it take to get a parcel of land? Not even like a big thing. Tiny home isn't that big. Build, and then again, you don't have to do like that guy who did North Dakota a few years ago. Remember, he was all like, "Oh, I'm here to build a white ethno state," and announce it from the rooftops. You know, doesn't even be anything like that. But wouldn't that be a cool start? And like, this is the other thing. Like, again, I know like that whole Patrick Little, Paul Nealon things. God bless them. I get what they're trying to do. I caught a little bit of the Brundlefly, Richard Spencer thing last night, and you saw Richard Spencer kind of make this point in his tweet, like, they took a risk and put themselves out there. And the one thing I want to say about that is like, yeah, man, but like, and again, I'm not trying to like money shame Richard Spencer or anyone. It's just basically like you do have a certain license, a certain white privilege, if you will. No, I don't mean it that way. But like, it's easy to say that, but like myself included, even though I'm not white, a lot of us work for a living. We don't come from a lot, and taking just risks to be edgy and shock trooper, that's going to work for a certain segment of people. But certain segment of people need to keep their head down. Like another idea, someone said this briefly, and I know I'm probably stealing this from somewhere, but someone said like, "Oh, Sam Dixon, he's this lawyer and he's like helpful to like this movement." Where all over these years have there maybe been like, what would it meant for like some of y'all to be putting money together for the past, couple decades or so, a little more, a little less, and putting a couple young white guys through law school, helping them like with their schooling so they can be a resource to you to use. Um, Things like there's so many like things that can be done now that are helpful. It's starting to rain. God damn it! Might have to dodge back in a second. Not like. Oh, actually, let me see if I move the laptop over here. I wish we had like one of them like awnings or something out here. Anyway, like what would that mean to the movement that you could be doing to some putting money in things that pay dividends for you into the future? I had one other point. So they running for office, waking people up to the JQ. That's totally cool. Yeah, it's cool, but like I remember getting a little bit annoyed about that because I was thinking, well, another idea like summer camps, like camps for families, like and then enough of you guys like could be putting money together to like get a little bit of land. I had this one idea once, like there's a lot of boomers getting older. They still have some wealth and resources. Some of them just have stories to tell. And there's that one guy on TRS who's like a medic, and he was telling this story like a year or two ago. And I remember I was happening to be listening to Daily Show, and I was like, whoa. And I remember thinking, well, especially with a lot of elder care, a lot of boomers getting older, needing health services. A lot of you guys say, oh, we don't know jobs, blah, blah, blah. What would it mean for some of y'all to like become like home health care aides, to maybe provide health care and like some of those kind of like end of life CNA, RN type services to whites who are aging, a way to maybe make a little bit of money and a way to support your fellow white people. I mean, there's a couple of random ideas like that I have that I could just expound upon, and I'm happy to just throw those out there into the ether and let some of y'all run with them. By all means, run with them. I think in addition to raising money to run for Senate or whatever to wake people up to JQ, that's fine and good, but it also needs to be matched with other things. Now, granted, these things I mentioned could definitely be happening under the radar. Your standard pool parties, your book clubs. I bet things like this have already been batted about and are already in process of happening to a certain degree. It's not just a meeting people face to face thing, but again, there's just other things that could be going on that could be of help besides just saying, let's just wake people up to the JQ. Cool, bro. But there's also things that you could be doing for white people now that are going to pay off in the right now, not just hoping that the snowball rolls from a decade or two and then boom, whatever. So that was one point I want to do. So, and then what I would like to do, and this goes to anyone listening, this goes to like the kind of black women sector circles that I kind of run in here, and this goes to the distant alt-right circles I run into. And I think I'm gonna start dropping this in some of the streams that I happen to step into or leaving people messages. There's people I really would love to just talk to. and say, hey, we don't have to go for like some crazy long time. Maybe pick like one or two topics to kind of hone in on. I know a lot of people stream and they go for a bit. Like I'm going for a bit here, but I want to monopolize time and just have some discussions. Like the Dennis Dale conversation was totally random and cool. The Luke Ford Hotep Jesus thing on that Sunday was pretty cool. I wish I had the entire time to like do it. That'd have been really swell. So just in so many words, I'm saying, hey, if you want to chat, like I was thinking, well, maybe should I have like, well, on the one side, like, that sounds cheesy. There's that black guy in Portland, like what a few years ago, he had this ask a black guy or take a picture of the black guy booth at like the farmers market. And I want to be as hokeyly sounding as that. But I feel like there's just a lot of things that could be asked about the black question in general that, well, A, no one really steps up to ask. Or you just get like, you get hokery from black people, particularly black people, because I don't see a lot of black women really venture over here anyway, but like just out of interest or maybe they lurk, whatever. I mean, I feel like even just some of the questions that Babs threw out tonight were kind of cool. Like, I would like to have that kind of conversation and offer some insight that I can offer. I'm obviously speaking from my own specific experience, but there are things in general or that I feel like I have a pretty good answer for in terms of like how the general black collective kind of thinks and operates. So, ask a black woman, .com, whatever. Well, I would love to do a segment like that, or just any topic in general. But that's something I'm willing to put myself out there to say, hey, happy to come on board and offer some clarity of some sorts if I can do so. And then for like the black women who kind of run here in these circles, some of you are some really great commenters. Some of you are also content creators, and a few of you from Facebook who I do see over here on YouTube a bit. I want to start a black woman to black woman talk where we just get together to kind of like, I feel like this is something that came up where a lot of us we talk about things, we make content, but we all kind of in our own boxes, and as Luke Forward put it, we're all in our own lanes, if you will. And it would be nice to talk more, interact with each other more on like a stream. There'd be like some long, thing. Again, the same kind of thing, maybe just an hour, hour and a half. We just maybe pick one or two things we essentially want to talk about, and then we just kind of let it go from there. So, same thing with a distant alt right. Some people I want to tap within the next few weeks and go, hey, like let's get on a stream and talk together and have at it. That's a great Bordeaux. That's what I'm sipping on. Mm. Excuse me. So I think I'm gonna leave it there. Don't hate me if I don't come back and tag. Well, most of these tabs are still open, so I can come back and tag this with some SEO, whatever. I did learn something Sunday. Search engine optimization. Um, I should do that or whatever. I mean, I already do that, but that was kind of a joke. Like Hotep Jesus, he's like, oh, I do all this content stuff and SEO, blah blah blah. Anyway, so I think I'm just gonna leave it there. This was fun. It's good to be back and time to get back to the video making business and to also do some things a little bit differently. I do want to tap someone to maybe do some artwork for me or maybe some editing or I don't know. I want to like take this to the next level and I don't really have any big plans to be gone for any stretch of time in particular. So there's some cool things that I would like to get coming here on this channel. Spend the rest of the week making videos and catching up on some other things. I got to catch up with some Jim Goad. He was on Warski and he was on JF. It was kind of cool. I'm splitting the difference between both of those former besties. Who else? I want to catch up on Luke Ford. He had Kevin Michael Grace on again. Kevin Michael Grace is awesome. Uh, yeah, it's funny. Like, I felt for a second I was getting a little bit like a little sassy on Sunday. Where I was like, I've heard Kevin Michael Grace on the streamer too, so I definitely can't match his level of sass. So I'm literally going to leave that right there, and I will see you very, very soon. Thanks for stopping in, Babs. Hey, let me just say that right now. You're definitely a person um, that I'd love to talk to more and engage. And I see you streaming with quite a few other people that I like and would like to engage too. So you're definitely on that list amongst others. So yeah, I'll just spend the week just trying to make some more things here and start reaching out to folks and yeah, see what comes next. So anyway, you guys all have a good night and I'll be back.